Ferrari's new power unit for 2026 is not just another step in the hybrid era. It feels like a complete philosophical reset that quietly reveals how seriously Maranello is treating this regulation change. As emerged from Ferrari's own explanations, it is not hype or marketing language, but a clear admission that the engine will sit at the very center of performance in the next era. Far more than aerodynamics alone, that alone should tell you how deep this change really is. Because Ferrari are effectively saying that whoever masters the power unit concept first will shape the competitive order for years. What makes this revelation so striking is the sheer scale of the transformation. For the first time in Formula One history, the power output is split almost perfectly down the middle between internal combustion and electrical power. Around 500 horsepower from the V6 engine and another 500 from the electrical system completely changes how speed is generated, how energy is spent, and how a lap is constructed. It's no longer an engine that simply supplements power with hybrid assistance. It is a system where electricity is just as important as fuel. Ferrari have openly acknowledged that this balance has forced them to rethink everything from the architecture to the software logic. Removal of the MGUH is another seismic shift that cannot be overstated. For over a decade, teams relied on it to harvest energy from the turbo and stabilize performance across a lap. Its disappearance leaves the MGUK as the sole source of energy recovery, meaning braking efficiency and liftoff phases are now absolutely critical. Ferrari's engineers are effectively designing an engine that lives and dies by how intelligently it can regenerate energy under deceleration. And that places enormous importance on precision, control, and integration with the chassis. One of the most fascinating consequences Ferrari have revealed is the limitation of battery deployment. The battery simply cannot provide full electric power for an entire lap anymore, especially on circuits with long straights. This introduces a strategic tension that has not existed in this form before. Energy will run out sometimes before the end of the straight, and that means performance will no longer be about having power everywhere, but about choosing exactly where to spend it. Ferrari are clearly betting that intelligent management, not brute force, will be the key advantage. This is where Ferrari's emphasis on software becomes truly revealing. They are openly stating that the real performance differentiator may not be hardware at all, but the algorithms controlling energy, deployment, and recovery. In other words, two engines with similar peak power figures could behave completely differently on track, depending on how smartly the software balances aggression and conservation. That is a subtle but powerful insight, because it suggests Ferrari are aiming to win performance battles in code as much as in carbon fiber or metal. Another detail that stands out is Ferrari's confidence that races will not descend into endless lift and coast scenarios. Despite the energy constraints, Ferrari believe the system can be managed dynamically without turning drivers into passengers, forced to save energy constantly. Instead, the challenge will be finding the optimal compromise between outright pace and battery life. And that balance will change lap by lap, stint by stint, and circuit by circuit. This alone adds a new layer of complexity that fans may not immediately notice, but teams will feel intensely. Drivers themselves will become far more involved in energy management, and this is a subtle but crucial shift. Ferrari have confirmed that drivers will need to actively adjust energy deployment modes far more often using steering wheel controls, reacting to battery state and race conditions in real time. This means the 2026 power unit is not just a technical challenge, but a human one. The driver who best understands how to work with the engine, rather than simply extract lap time, could gain a decisive advantage. Ferrari have also been careful to manage expectations when it comes to competitive order. Despite the regulations being finalized more than 2.5 years in advance, no team truly knows where it stands relative to its rivals. That uncertainty is telling because it suggests the performance window is extremely narrow and highly sensitive to small decisions. Ferrari's message is clear. This will not be another era defined instantly by one dominant engine supplier. Reliability, however, has quietly emerged as a major concern across the grid. Ferrari have acknowledged that dyno testing has exposed issues for multiple manufacturers, and many of these problems are linked not to flawed design, but to the aggressive push to reduce weight while optimizing combustion with 100% sustainable fuels. What makes the 2026 project particularly volatile is the presence of regulatory gray areas. Former Ferrari engineer Luigi Mazzola has openly acknowledged that teams exploiting these zones are not cheating, but innovating within the rules. Reports suggesting Mercedes and Red Bull may have found creative solutions around compression ratios only underline how fierce this technical arms race already is. Ferrari's approach appears more cautious, focusing on robustness and legality rather than pushing every boundary immediately. Electronics represents another hidden battlefield. The new tag 700 ECU has already triggered concerns over data loss and interference caused by the powerful electrical systems. Ferrari, like others, must integrate multiple control units to ensure stability, and any failure here could compromise performance regardless of how strong the engine itself is. This makes Ferrari's emphasis on software integration even more logical because reliability and performance are now inseparable. What stands out in Ferrari's revelations is how interconnected everything has become. The power unit cannot be considered in isolation. Energy recovery affects braking. Braking affects tire performance.